Hiya! Last week, I mentioned my attempt to tell you an embarrassing story from my youth while playing a PvP game, and clearly that failed. Today, I wanted to try again and tell you a story from my youth while felting a dragon. Unfortunately, that failed too, so while you watch me felt this purple dragon, I'm going to talk to you about another purple dragon that you might or might not have heard of. Figment, from the Disney ride Journey into Imagination with Figment. Why am I talking to you about this random Disney character? Because, like I mentioned before, I wanted to tell you a story, specifically about how I absolutely hated this ride as a child. Why did I? Well, animatronics were not my favorite thing in the world. In fact, really, anything that tried to be alive and real, but clearly wasn't, used to freak me out. People in those character suits and puppets were a good example of this as well. And the moment I saw Figment as an animatronic during the ride, I shielded my eyes and covered my ears for the remainder of it. Wait. Sorry, pause the video. Look at this terrifying creature. As a 5-year-old, wouldn't you have also been horrified at the sight of his bulging yellow eyes and barely moving beak of a mouth? Absolutely terrifying. Sorry about that. Let's keep things rolling, shall we? Anyways, as I said earlier, because I was shielding my eyes and ears to protect them from that minuscule monstrosity, I don't actually remember much about the ride itself after the first time you see Figment in all his terrifying but rather small animatronic glory. Without a full story to tell, I had instead fell down a rabbit hole trying to do research on this ride, because re-traumatizing yourself with looking at old animatronics is in these days. And actually, I found some interesting information, specifically how the ride today is nothing like the original. You see, the original ride was created in 1983, and it was called Journey into Imagination. To explain the ride, because its concept was actually pretty cool and wholesome, it started out with the audience floating up in the clouds. The riders then spotted and eventually caught up with an odd-looking blimp machine, and driving that blimp machine was the Dreamfinder. The snazzily dressed old man went on to a nice explanation about what his blimp machine does, which is that it collected dreams and ideas. After his nice explanation, he began talking about creating a figment of his imagination, which you guessed it is that little lovely little creature named Figment, who popped up and helped the Dreamfinder create some cool ideas to fill the funny blimp machine. Once they had thought up of enough, Dreamfinder states that they have to go to the Dreamport to drop these ideas off. After this, the audience basically gets transported through about 4 different rooms, which according to Wikipedia.
Wait. You're really going to use a Wikipedia page to give us that information?
Well, yes, dear viewer, because I'm not going to spend several hours of my time trying to find ancient transcripts about a ride with animatronics and puppets in it. No thank you, I do not wish to stare at that terrifying creature for more than 5 seconds, thank you. Moving on, according to the Wikipedia page on Journey into Imagination, the different rooms are representing art, literature, the performing arts, and science. After going through these inspiring rooms, the riders would file into a different room, one with Figment in it, surrounded by screens which had him using his imagination to see what it would have been like to have different careers, like a scientist, a mountain climber, a pirate. Okay, maybe a pirate isn't a career, but who knows? It was the 90s. Times were different back then. Anyways, at the very end, Dreamfinder told the audience that imagination is the key to unlocking the hidden wonders of the world. Well, I'm not sure if that was his actual voice. That's pretty adorable and wholesome. When the riders would exit, they would then be taken to ImageWorks, which was a creative playground for the future. Pretty cool, right? This ride sounds so much better than the one I remember. So, why'd they change it? Basically, for some rides back in the day, they had a sponsorship that would invest the making of the ride and keep it going. Kodak, which you might know as one of the original camera companies, had sponsored Journey into Imagination when it was around, but unfortunately for reasons of which I'm not quite sure, they had pulled away their sponsorship. So Disney had to reimagine the ride as it closed in 1998. In 1999, the second version of this ride was published, called Journey into Your Imagination. I looked it up and watched the ride itself. It was even worse than the current one, though, with no little purple dragon to boot, so I'm not gonna really bother trying to explain it. Just know that it only lasted about 2 years because Disney fans absolutely hated it because of the lack of attention and actual imagination that went into making this one. So that one closed in 2001. After some renovations in 2002, the current version of the ride came out. But after watching it, it's definitely better than the 1999 version, but it just doesn't compare to the original. In this version, Figment is only causing mischief and practically ruins Dr. Channing's tour of his five senses labs. In one part, Figment even sprays the audience with a skunk smell, which is actually just burnt coffee smell, but it's still gross. But it's better than actual skunk. This is actually the only part of the ride I remember as a kid. Because the ride was kinda loud, I could hear, even through my covered ears, that we were about to get sprayed with a gross smell, so I covered my nose. My dad, who was sitting next to me, didn't really get the memo in time, and he ended up scrunching his nose. I remember that was the only time I giggled during the ride because my dad's reaction was actually pretty funny. Sorry, Dad. In conclusion, I'm fairly positive that even if the original version of the ride was around when I was a kid, I probably still wouldn't have enjoyed it because of the numerous amounts of Figment puppets and animatronics in it. Though the current version has less animatronics, I don't really enjoy the current version of the character Figment. He seems to have been downplayed as this little mischievous dragon instead of the innocent and creative one that riders of the original ride used to know and love. As a side note, while doing my research, I actually found out that the maker of the original ride, Tony Baxter, is thinking about redoing the attraction again. I hope that he can reintroduce the character of the Dreamfinder and make Figment a little more like his first form. That would make him a little bit more likable in my eyes. Just a bit, though. He's still kind of scary to me. Just a little bit. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed my rant about a different purple dragon and the interesting history of the ride he's a part of, as I felt at this little guy. I know he looks nothing like Figment, but I just wanted to create a little dragon since I enjoy felting. I think his arms are a little bit stubby, but that's okay. His wings were the hardest part because I had really no idea how to create them, but I think they turned out okay in the end. Well, that's all for today. See you next week. Bye-bye! Oh yeah, and if you'd like to see my credits for where I got all my information, as well as the rides themselves, links to everything will be down in the description below. Bye-bye!